All right. So Keri Murphy, thank you for coming on the show. I don't remember. I've been talking to like 4 different people today, how we got connected. It must be through a publicist, right? Or something.
I,
Yeah.
the divine gods have brought us together today, Mitch, and that's all
Okay.
that really matters. Yes.
That's a good point. And I love talking about this stuff because not only are you an entrepreneur, but video has really become a big part of our life. And I told you I had another Keri on my show, I don't know, 100 episodes ago. She's in New Jersey, because it's not a problem, but it's something people need to
It's a
address, right?
necessity. Yes.
Yeah, it's part
Yes.
of your image now. And
Yeah.
but I want to tell your story first though. So let's go back. You said you're originally from, and it is Oregon, right? It's not
It's
Oregon.
it's
I've been
not
criticized
Oregon, my
before,
East
right?
Coast friend. No, it
Right.
is Oregon. Yes.
Yeah. I have a friend in Chicago. She's living in Jersey when I met her. She's from Oregon and she used to correct me all the time. So I know it's Oregon. And so
Yes.
tell me
Yes.
your background, your story, where you're from and how you got to where you are. And then we'll talk about all the great video stuff.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. So I did. I grew up in Oregon, and I don't know what. It's so funny. I grew up with a family of hairdressers, hairstylists. My mom owns a salon. My two sisters now work there. My uncle does hair. My grandfather was a barber.
Okay.
Somehow, I didn't follow suit. But it's funny. I love being creative. I love visual, and I just had this affinity from as early as I can remember of video and wanting to be on camera. My grandmother looked like Marilyn Monroe, something I don't.
Okay.
But I knew that entertainment was somewhere in my blood. So I remember asking my mom for many, many years, like my daughter is now, to get me into modeling and acting. Growing up in the 80s,
Right. Sure.
supermodels were big back in the day.
Yeah.
And so when I was 11, I think the most awkward age possible, my mom finally said yes. I think she thought I needed the confidence at the time. And so she put me into this little modeling and acting
And that
school.
was in
And
Oregon?
that was in Oregon, yep, in
Okay.
Portland, where I grew up.
Okay.
And fast forward, I mean, it's such a long story, but the long and short of it is
But
I
we got a
ended
whole
up
hour, so
buying,
don't fast
right,
forward too much.
I ended up buying that talent agency when I was
Oh,
27
okay.
and grew it to almost $1 million business. I started my first business at 23. That was interior design, but I was always using video to grow my business. I was the
Yeah.
interior design expert on the morning show, or I was the fashion correspondent for Fashion Week. And so I was always using video as just a natural expression of what I loved to do and who I was to grow my businesses, but I wasn't even thinking about it. I wasn't like, oh, I should be using video. Fast forward
You
now,
just
like
kind
you
of did
really
it.
can't
Well,
have
now, yeah,
a
it's
successful
easy and
business
it's
without one.
now what made you buy the agency? So 27 was like what year? You're much younger
27.
than
Oh
me, I'm
my
sure. So I'm just
Lord,
gonna be embarrassed.
cannot do the math. But let's just go back to that question of what made me buy the talent agency. So
Yeah.
I was running an interior design business. I was a solopreneur, working for myself by
Okay.
myself for about 5 years. Started the business at 20, 22, 23, and I was getting bored, like a lot of
Mostly homes. You were
solopreneurs
doing like
do.
residences and
Yeah, I
stuff.
was doing resident homes.
Okay.
And even though I loved the creative process, I didn't always love working for myself by myself. And so one day my mom called me out of the blue and said, Keri, there's a modeling agency for sale. And I said,
Oh, they
you
wanted to
know,
sell it. They were looking to sell it.
yeah, they wanted to sell it, but I didn't want to buy a modeling agency. I wanted to
Right.
buy, a talent agency. And so, long and short of it, my mom calls me back and says, Keri, you won't believe it. It's the agency you went through. And we both put in $15,000, which was, a big investment at 27,
Yeah.
and grew that business to almost a seven-figure business when we had the wonderful 2008 recession hit. I know so
Yeah.
many
Right.
people were
So
impacted
so
during
you
that
you
time.
grew it to a talent agency, basically expanded their business and
Huge. It used to just be a
yeah.
kids talent agency, and I brought it to an agency that represented kids and adults, models, actors. We had
Right.
about 500 talent. I had a huge staff. I had actually partnered with Wilhelmina out of New York.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
sure.
this is it. Like I'm going places. Like I had no
Right.
plan B, as most entrepreneurs don't. And then I felt like, I know it's not the truth, but I felt like it was like one day I woke up and I was out of time and money. Like I just was for so long, I hadn't taken a paycheck. I found myself in this place of crisis, like, holy crap, what am I going to
Like you think you were
do?
burning yourself out or you weren't
Well,
felt you
no, it
weren't
was it
get
was the recession that was
was
hitting.
that
Like I didn't
oh,
get
okay.
at 32 that there was this thing going on
Right.
called this great recession that we were having in the real estate market that was impacting my business. I didn't realize what was happening around me, but
Got it.
what I did realize was I wasn't bringing in as much revenue, and yet my overhead was staying the same. So
Right.
that's why I love being a business coach now, because we can help really look at those things before they happen.
Well,
But
that's what strategic planning is all about, right? It's to
that
avoid to
exactly.
see the
But
things
in my
coming down the
20s
road.
and
People don't
30s,
do
what
it.
was a
Yeah,
strategic
of
plan? Who
course.
knew,
Now,
right?
why
Who knew?
did I'm curious, why did the people want to sell the business? Were they just older and they were like, oh, we don't want to do
Yeah,
this
she
anymore?
wanted to retire. She had had it for
Okay.
so many years and was kind of ready
Right.
to move on and wanted to sell it. And so
You were
not only did I go
27, all
through the
full of
agency, I worked for her for 5 years. So let me be very clear. It's not that I was
got
just
it.
some talent that went through the agency. I worked in her company for 5 years.
So you were
And so I
familiar with
knew
it.
it. I
Yeah.
knew it. I knew all the different roles and the culture and the brand of the business.
Right.
So I was so excited, as we are when we start a business. Like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I'm so excited about this. And I always say, like, passion will get you so far, and then mentorship, resources, like
Yeah.
strategic
Well,
planning,
money hits
like
the
gets you the
road and
other.
you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Right.
Yeah.
I know.
So I ended up closing that talent agency, and I have to be honest, like for a few years I really lost myself
So you
because
weren't
that
able to
was my
sell it because the
identity.
recession just crushed you guys.
Yeah, I could not offload it. And it was kind of like too little too late at that time. And so I ended up finally moving out to Los Angeles, kind of my dream
Okay.
as a little girl, to
Right.
pursue my Mary Hart Entertainment Tonight career. And I signed with
A
a
lot of
top
people listening
agency out
don't know
here.
who Mary Hart is.
I know, I just dated myself so much. Maria
Yeah.
Menounos, let's go there.
Okay.
And so I was doing it. I had book shows on E and TV Guide, and was like, oh my God, like I'm doing this thing that I always dreamt of doing. And it wasn't fulfilling. I could not do it one more day. Here I am, 33, 34. And at this point, I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years. So waiting for
Okay.
someone to give me a job it's like sitting at a dentist
Yeah, I
office waiting
know.
for someone
You
to pull
can't go
your
back.
teeth.
It's
I
very hard.
just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And so I had kind of this breakthrough moment after sitting in an audition room for 3 hours in a bikini. And I
Oh
was like,
God.
I'm not doing this
It's
again. I'm
emasculating.
done.
Yeah.
And I was bawling my eyes out. I called my agent and manager and was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And it was that moment that Inspired Living really came to be. I remember Kevin Sorbo was a golf fan, and I hosted a show on the Golf Channel. So we were Facebook friends. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to start interviewing people about their life. And I reached out to Kevin on Facebook and I was like, hey, I see that you're a fan of golf. I used to host a show on the Golf Channel. I'd love to interview you. He said yes. And Mitch, that was the beginning of Inspired Living TV back in 2009.
I guess
And so
we
since
already had
then,
YouTube at that point, right? But not a lot of podcasting.
yeah, podcasting I don't think was a thing really.
Yeah, it was just very unknown. Yeah, well, you could listen to podcasts. You had to buy some weird device, or you could do it on an iPod. There wasn't a lot to listen to. And
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Yeah, so that grew, and then my business continued to grow, and I had one of those aha
But you
moments
didn't
that
have a
sometimes
TV
we
channel.
have.
So what were you doing with Inspired
No.
Living TV? Was this going to be like a
Well, at
YouTube
this
channel
time,
or?
it was a YouTube channel. I was
Okay.
building out the website. I launched the website. At this time, I came off of a year-long stint as an NLP practitioner and
Sure.
coach. So I was doing a lot of life coaching, and Inspired Living TV was just such an extension. And again, I love to use video, so it was a natural just way for me to get message out there and build brand. And so it was web based. It was a web show, and
Okay.
that's where
All
it
right.
started. And then I
But good
niched
timing,
down.
actually. YouTube is so
It was
crowded now, you
Yes,
know?
but it's still it is crowded, but I always say when you have a channel I know benefits me, I will find you and I will listen. And that I hear that so much. Like it's too late
Yeah.
for me. It's too crowded, it's too
No. Well, it's like
noisy.
saying I shouldn't get on social media because everyone's got an account. That's ridiculous. You got to
Yes,
put
but
it
there
out
are
there.
people that feel that way. There are
I
people that
know.
feel
I
that way.
agree
So
with you.
it
Yeah.
comes down to like why should people care about your channel? If there's
Right.
4 other billion other channels, why should I care about yours? But fast forward, I really figured out this niche in video about 2012, 2013,
Right.
after I kind of was like, I don't want to be a life coach. And I was watching someone on video in the coaching industry. And by the way, I had no intention of being a coach. Like it just kind of organically came to be. And I
Right.
remember watching this person on camera, and it was like over the top, super cheesy, super infomercially. And I said, oh my goodness,
I can
I
help
can
this
teach.
person.
I can teach
Yeah.
entrepreneurs how to be on
Right.
camera.
Well,
Like
you
it's
seem
what
to
I've
have a
done my
teaching
whole life.
personality, like,
I love to
want to
teach.
help
I
people.
love to
Yeah.
teach.
So
Yeah,
that's
I
where
do.
coaching
And
fits well.
That's who I've been my whole life. As a little girl, I was that person. So for me to have the business I do now, which is a combination of, coaching and inspiring and helping people believe in themselves, it's such a perfect fit of my personality. But now we've grown to a multi 7-figure business with lots of coaches and experts on the team, and
Right.
but I want to
So
say it didn't
back then,
start there.
I don't want to get to technical stuff, but I'm always curious. So
Yeah.
you approached Kevin and you said, listen, I want to film this show. How did you do it? I mean, you couldn't do it on Zoom. There was
We
nothing
met
going
in a
on then.
park in Beverly Hills,
Okay.
and I knew a couple videographers from being out here and doing TV and just meeting
Okay.
people in my community. And I said, "Hey, will you come out and film Kevin Sorbo and I?" And they're like, "Sure." And I mean, I look back at that video, and it's so funny. It's still up on YouTube.
So there's a couple of
Um,
cameras, different angles, and that was it.
yeah, it was
Okay.
one camera, and
One
a
camera.
microphone, and that was it. Yeah. And as I've gotten, more experience and mature with filming, I've done 2 camera shoots. Like our crew now, when we did in-person interviews,
Right.
which I can't wait to get back to, it was the over the shoulder shots, the wide shot, the lavs, like the lights, like it's a full production thing, but that's not where it started. And I think that's important for someone to hear right now, is that you don't need high production to have high impact. Like you
Right.
don't need the fancy cameras and all the fancy lighting. Does it help with just positioning and quality and all of
Did you
those
build your
things?
brand, right?
It does. Yeah. I mean, you
Yeah.
don't want to look like crap on camera, but if you have a message and a personality that people resonate with, all you need is your phone. You don't need
Yeah.
fancy equipment.
Especially
And I want to make sure
nowadays.
people understand that, because they'll make that
Yeah.
the excuse of why they don't show up.
It's funny when I started the podcast, it's been about 3 years. So I was always into listening to podcasts and we were looking to do stuff. I tried some videos and now I put this on video, but it was like for the law practice I had partners. It was so boring. Nobody wanted to listen to lawyers talk. Right. So I guess I was listening to a video, maybe, what's his name who does all the podcasting videos? Pat, I forget. Anyway, one of the guys in the industry, and he's like, you can start a podcast for $75. I'm like, well, don't I need like a
Okay.
studio and like boom mics over my head and people working all the
Right.
equipment? So I took $75. I bought some equipment. It sounded terrible, by the way, the first time. Then we had to learn how to clean it up. I use better equipment now. But yeah, it didn't take much and then I realized, wow, you can put all this content out. Then video came later because of the pandemic. I didn't have cameras in my office to film people. I probably could have though, right? I eventually could have very easily
Yeah.
gotten a camera, which is what I
Yeah,
do
for
here.
sure.
Yeah. And it's really, there's not a lot of barriers. There's really no excuse for not putting out like
There is
decent,
zero
interesting
barrier to entry.
content.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But I will say, we say that, but for the person who's not using it, it can feel so overwhelming, and
Yeah.
you have
So
imposter
overwhelming.
syndrome, and you have what to
Right.
say. And, whether you're a man or a woman, we all have ego. We all have that critical factor that, keeps us from putting ourselves out there. And I always say
Yeah.
video is a muscle. Like the first time you do anything, it feels so awkward and
Oh my
uncomfortable.
God. I was
And
so
I
nervous.
look back at my last hosting, like when I started hosting, I remember one of my videographers, Gordon, who is not with us anymore, but he was so amazing. And he would say after a couple takes, because we were at like a charity event, he'd like, "Keri, will you go grab a drink and come back?" Like,
Yeah. Like you're just not,
he's like,
sometimes you're like you're out of your body and you can't,
yeah, I
you
was
got to
just so
shake that stuff
hosty,
off.
like
Yeah.
welcome to the show. And we almost put on this like pseudo personality, and that's not what people want. They don't want to host. They want authentic connection. But when there's fear involved and you're all up in your head, like that's not an easy thing to do. So I'm
Right.
always telling my clients, like, just speak to one person. When you press record, you're looking through the camera lens to that one person. You're speaking in the singular.
Right.
And it's a conversation. It's not a performance. You're not hosting something,
Right.
and when you start feeling that, like you could feel it in your body, you can be like, okay, I get it. I'm
You
just
get
talking to my
loose.
best friend. Yeah. You get
Exactly.
loose.
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
that's why I do like a pre-podcast chat, because I knew would be an exception, but I have spoken to people where before I used to do that, where I'm on this podcast and I'm thinking, how am I going to get through a 50-minute interview with this person? I can't get anything out of them. I was on a podcast. I was a guest, right? It was like some motivational podcast. And the gentleman sends me, there was a guy, he sends me this list of questions. And like an idiot, I'm like, oh, he sent me some sample questions. That's nice. I don't even look at them, right? I get on the podcast and all of us, first of all, he had some traumatic brain injury that he told me about
Mm.
after the podcast. So his vision wasn't good. So he starts out like taking this paper out and he's like this on
Oh no.
camera, like you
Oh
could,
dear.
right?
Oh dear.
And I
Oh
go,
dear. Yeah.
oh my God, he's going to ask me all those questions. I didn't even read them. I don't know to this day, Keri, what I said. I don't remember what the questions were. People were like, oh, you were great. I'm like, really? Like I had no, but I think that some people, they just, that's why like I didn't send you questions and stuff.
They
like to be
overthink it. I'll tell you, you can
yeah,
send me
very much so.
questions and just like you, I'm not going to look at them. I might look over them
not.
quickly because here's the thing too. I think whether it's a podcast or it's a video, the more authentic it is, the better it sounds. And so when
Yeah.
you send everyone a list of questions and they've thought about the answers and they, you know, fortunately I have the
Sounds
experience
canned.
where, yeah, it sounds totally canned. And then people are like,
Yeah.
well, that wasn't entertaining, and everything has to be entertaining. It has to be infotainment,
Yeah,
as I
or
say.
they're
So
not gonna listen.
like if it's not fun to listen to or watch,
Right.
like why am I going to keep doing it? So, you know, people, oh, it's so funny. I'll have pre-chats where they're like, okay, this is what we're going to ask. At the top 5 minutes, it's this. And then we're going to go into this. And then I'm going
I
to ask you
know.
this. And we're
I
going to go
have
over
those
here.
things all the time
And
too.
I'm like, okay, my brain can't handle this. Can we just have a
I
conversation?
know. A guy sent me
Yeah.
a script once. It was like, at 6:05, we're going to talk about this. And the question at 7:02 will be, I'm like, what is this? I can't operate this way. You're making me nervous now.
Podcasting don'ts behind the scenes
Yeah,
and video
exactly.
don'ts. Like, please don't send your guest that. It's just going to overwhelm them more. If you have a true expert on your podcast or you're interviewing them for your show, like they'll be good. You know, ask them questions that they know, get to know them, ask them about themselves. People love to talk about themselves.
Yeah,
and
big
then
time.
always have your ideal client in your mind. Like, what do they want to know? What
Right.
questions can you ask that would help someone else? Because if it's all about the two of you, right, then I always feel like I'm listening in on someone's
Yeah, they're
conversation.
going to tune
And the
out
benefit has
eventually.
to be for the listener. Yeah.
No, that's good advice, because whenever when I'm a guest on a podcast, I'm not there as a podcast host. That's ridiculous. I'm there as a
Right.
business attorney. So, you know, I have certain messages and things I think are important for entrepreneurs, and, you know, I go with that. But yeah, I mean, it's very funny where people get so nervous and they're, you know, you're looking at them and they're like half of their heads not showing in the camera and they're sitting in and I,
All the things I teach, watch your headroom,
Right.
watch where you're looking, or when they're looking down at the lens or up at the lens, you know, all these little things that people don't think about when they start using video. So let me go through those really quickly. Let's talk about where to look. I know it sounds so
I don't look
simple.
directly at you because the camera's on a mic stand. I'm looking at your face. So
Right.
yeah,
So
I'm cheating.
depending on, right, depending on like the software and what you're using, like I'm using my webcam, it's a little bit better quality than my laptop camera.
Mhm.
So even though I can actually see you in my peripheral vision, I'm not looking at you, because if I did, I wouldn't be looking at you.
Yeah, look
Right.
at
So
me now. How do you look
right.
if you're
But
looking at me? Like that. You're looking down because that's where the
I'm
screen
looking
is.
down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would, you know, I also see, and I have done it too, you prop your screen up so your lens is right in, you know, alignment with your eye. But if you're shooting just one-to-one videos, like you to camera, I
Mhm.
know, again, it sounds so simple, but you want to be looking through the camera lens. I cannot tell you how many times I see people looking down, or they're looking up, or better yet, they have their notes over on the side, and the whole time they're doing this.
Yeah.
Which you can't see if you're listening, but I keep breaking rapport with you because I keep looking away. And that's not, I don't trust that. If
Right.
you have notes, like at least put them in a place where you can see them in your peripheral and you don't have to keep shifting your eyes, because shifty
Yeah.
eyes, not trustworthy, as an attorney would say, right? No shifty eyes.
Yeah. Well, that's why I don't know. Somebody suggested to me, because I have these two mic stands. I don't use them too much. She said, we can get a mount, put the camera on the mic stand, and then you can, now it messes up my background a little bit, but I can literally put this in front of your face and look at the camera like I'm looking at you, and I can pretty much see what you're doing. But yeah, there are definitely tricks, but people don't seem to care too much. So, you know,
Hey, look,
it's
at the end of the
pretty funny.
day, if the message is sincere and it makes an impact to the person who's watching, then that's all that matters. It doesn't, and we could sit here all day and talk technology, which is fun. But I think what I teach and what I'm really excellent at is helping people work through their fear and understand their core message and really like be the person that will make the impact that they want to make.
So a lot of
Technology,
your
I think,
clients
comes
are people
second.
you're coaching them to feel comfortable on camera and so
Yeah,
forth.
like the number one thing I hear, even if someone has been in business for 20 years, is I don't know my message. And like you said, it's so noisy. How do I stand out? What do I say? Where do I put my videos? How do I build, you know, my audience? All of those questions are what we answer. So we say we help people be seen, be known, and be paid for their brilliance. That's kind of what we do over here.
Okay, so you're not just helping them on camera and feel comfortable. You're helping them kind of build out a YouTube channel or a video program or whatever they want to
We
do
help
from
them
a
build a
marketing
business.
standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, we work with attorneys, doctors, realtors, coaches. And the thing is, and I say this all the time, Mitch, is that look, you can't just be amazing on camera and have no strategy behind the scenes. Like,
Good point.
the
Right.
camera is your megaphone, right? Your camera is your way to reach more people. But if you don't have the systems and infrastructure set up for you to automate, scale, leverage, then what are you doing? You know, it's like, it's great that you're building an audience and it's great that
Right.
you're visible. That's awesome and it's needed. But how are you leveraging that to grow your business, to create time and money freedom, which is what we all get into business for? So
Right.
even though Inspired Living, like our focus is teaching people how to get over their fear, how to clarify their message, and how to monetize that message, we do so much behind the scenes of building websites and brand infrastructure and automation and funnels
So
and
you're
all that
really a
stuff.
video marketing agency basically for your clients, right? I mean, soup to nuts. Your focus is
Soup to
video.
nuts. Yeah, it is. I
Yeah.
wouldn't
So,
call us an agency, but other people
well,
could see us as that. Yeah.
marketing experts, whatever. So
Yeah.
you Inspired TV though is still active and you're still putting stuff out there. People want to go to Inspired TV. They just do a search
Yeah,
on YouTube or
actually,
your
yeah, the
website.
YouTube is Keri Murphy Inspired Living, and
Okay.
the website's inspiredliving.tv. So we launched the our
Okay.
podcast in 2019. And it's funny because, here we were, we've been doing videos for 10 years and we never
Yeah.
thought of stripping the audio, starting the podcast, which has been really great. And then the minute we started the
Oh, it's
podcast,
not just a video
really,
podcast. You're putting it on audio too.
yep.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
we couldn't do in-person interviews anymore. So the
Right.
podcast
Okay.
really seemed to work for us. So I miss
Right.
I miss the in-person. We'll get back to that. But yeah, Inspired Living TV is still out there going strong.
Okay. So what are some of the do's and don'ts? Like, I know you were giving some advice to people, but I'm sure you've seen a lot of people as to the things that they do wrong and the things that you've seen them do
Mhm.
right. I don't know if you have more to offer in that area
I
or you're
sure
willing to
do. Are
reveal
you
certain
ready?
things.
I'm ready to reveal. So I'm going to say one of the biggest mistakes I see everyone make, and I catch myself doing the same thing. So pointing fingers back at me is please don't start with, hey, everyone. Hey, everyone. Hi, guys. Hi, Instagram. Hi, Facebook. Like, we're in such right now in a connection economy, connection culture, and we have 3 to 8 seconds to keep and capture someone's attention using video. So if you're using what I say, catch the ocean words, people check out real quick. So you always want to speak to the one. So
Okay.
I'm so glad you're here today. And don't start your videos with you. So if you're going to, I teach there's 5 types of videos, but to
Okay.
start with the why, going back to Simon Sinek's TED Talk, it's start with what's in it for the person. There's noise. Yes, there is. But when you start, instead of starting the video like this, hey, I'm Keri Murphy, and for the last 30 years, I have been on camera, and for over 2 decades, I have been an entrepreneur. And we specialize in teaching entrepreneurs how to really leverage the power of video and use it to grow and scale their multiple 6 and 7-figure business. Okay, that could
That's
wash
not
over
good.
you. Not good. No. So let me tell you why.
Okay.
Let me start
Sounds
it a
good to
little
me.
differently.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, you have this big vision for your life. You're an entrepreneur, a visionary, and you are so excited to help people win. And one of the ways to do that is to show up using video. But every time you try to use video, you stop because you don't like the way you look. You don't like the way you sound. You have
Right.
no idea what to say. And then technology, forget about it. If that is you, I am Keri Murphy and I can help solve that problem.
And you made it all about them
All
and
about
about
them.
what their problem is. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good because
So I
people
want you
hate
to
the way they
think
look,
about,
hate the way they sound. Yeah. They're very
right, if we
excited.
have 3 to 8 seconds to keep and capture someone's attention and you make it all about you, no one cares about you. Like, they don't care about me, they don't care about you, they care about the results. Like, it now, granted, if you're Kim Kardashian or J-Lo or The Rock, like, people care about you, right? They want
I
to see all
guess.
that.
Yeah. Right.
And once you build audience, they actually do care about you. They want to see behind the scenes. I talk about personality videos and how important those are to building brand because
Okay.
people do business with people, not brands anymore. We want connection. It's a connection economy. So with that being said, though, if I don't know you yet, and you're putting yourself out there, you're doing ads, you're building out your YouTube channel, make it about me first, right? Address me so then my curiosity is piqued. I'm intrigued with what you're saying. I resonate with what you're saying, and I'm going to stay and listen or watch what it is that you're putting out there. That's why in the beginning too, it's like, wait, like you want it about me? Like I want to make it about them because I'm so used to talking to that one person first.
Yeah, well, it's a acquired skill. I mean, it takes practice,
It
right?
is. It does take practice for
Yeah.
sure.
And I
But then
saw,
it becomes like anything else.
yeah, well, I saw on LinkedIn now you can put a video, like I guess intro to yourself if you click on the picture, right? And it'll,
Okay. So you just
yeah,
taught me something. Yeah,
yeah,
things are
there's some
changing
sort
so
of
much.
a,
Well, everything is a video platform now too. I mean, Instagram is
yeah,
no longer a picture sharing platform. It's a video sharing platform.
right.
LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook,
Yeah. So if you go
TikTok.
onto
Yeah.
LinkedIn, go to your picture and you click on it, and there's some way you can add a 10-second video, like just what you said. You can add that.
So cool.
Yeah, I haven't done it yet, but I was on a call with somebody who's a marketing expert. She said, or a LinkedIn expert. She said, "Oh, you can do all these new things now." I think though you can only do it on the mobile app, not on the website.
Okay. All
So
right.
you got
I'm
to
going to
check
check
that
it
out.
out.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely, definitely. So tell me how you run your business. Is it mostly virtual? Do you have employees that have to
Yeah.
work for you, or mostly
I do.
subcontractors?
I do. No, I
I
actually
used to
built the
have them. I
business
got
on
rid of all my employees.
contractors.
So yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny, I've completely shifted to where we're all employees now. I have a couple contractors. We're just getting to a place where I want people who are 100% invested in the vision and what we're doing. And it took me a while. I mean, I've had this business for 10 years, so it was a big leap. It was over the last, I would say, probably 3 years that I started hiring more employees, and now we're almost 100% employee based. We have about 8 employees right now,
Okay.
so not a huge company by any means, but we are growing rapidly. I think because everyone knows that they needs to be on camera. So, if there was a gift to this pandemic, it was bringing more people who really needed us
Yeah.
to find
I
us.
mean, really.
Yeah, and so my team is virtual though. They're all across the country, and so are my clients. I mean, we have clients that are international. We have clients all over the country, and we work with them virtually. Now, we do have some live in-person events that we do. We do free challenges in our Facebook group, which is really amazing. We bring in a lot of people there and help people transform. So it's just amazing, Mitch, what we're capable of with the technology that we have. I think back to that little 11-year-old little girl who had to audition to be on camera, who got told no 1,000,001 times. And now it's like we all have access. And I think because of that, it's almost harder, like you said, to maybe break through. But when you know who you're talking to and you're consistent with your message and you have emotional connection, you will absolutely stand out and you will grow an audience of followers, but you have to be patient. Impatience, I think, kills dreams more than anything else on the planet,
Yeah.
especially in this prime economy, right? Which means, and I'm the worst. Like if I can't get it by tomorrow, I'm gonna
I
go,
know.
and
Like
it's
if they're
hard.
not
It's like
delivering it this
insane.
afternoon, what kind of company is
What
this?
the
I'm
heck
not
is
waiting.
happening?
Yeah.
But the problem with that is that we create this real impatience in just our total life of like, I'm not going to wait for something. And so
Right.
we give up way before, like right before the miracle. It's like business is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And that's why you have to be in it to like win it. You really, whether you're using video or you're launching a podcast or whatever, it takes time. It
Oh
takes
yeah.
time to
It
build.
before I
Yeah.
got any traction with the podcast, it was probably 8 to 10 months. And a good friend of mine said,
Yeah.
listen, just keep putting out good content, just keep interviewing people. It's not magic, but it magically happens. And you gotta,
Yeah.
you're
I
right. I
love
mean,
that.
somebody tells you, oh, I recorded a video, which probably doesn't look too good. And they put it out on YouTube and they're like, or in LinkedIn or whatever.
Nothing
And they go,
happened. Nothing
yeah.
happened.
So this is worthless. I'm like,
Yeah,
that's your
video doesn't
sample?
work for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like,
You
yeah.
know,
Do it for 5 years. Do it for 1 year
right.
consistently with a
Yeah.
message that matters to someone on the other side, and you won't be saying that. But you're right. It's like, hey, I tried that once. It's like, oh my God. I was like, hey, I got up on that bike once. It didn't take me very far. I'm like, yeah, well, you got to ride it a couple times.
They say, is it Brene Brown that says it's like your first effing time or first
It's
effing
the
thing,
effing first
something?
time. I quote
Yeah.
her all the time. I love that
Yeah.
so much. And how she talks about embracing the suck. When you do anything
Yeah.
for the first time, she talks about, yes,
No, because you
we
won't be
have
so
such
disappointed. And
expectations.
yes, you won't be
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
devastated if you didn't expect a lot to begin with. And if it works out better than you thought, great. Look, it's true with
Pleasantly
anything. I
surprised.
tell, yeah,
Yes.
any business owner, I say, listen, you gotta give it a try, and it's probably not going to go too well the first time. And and it definitely, you got to build some momentum and I think also like, look, if they come on Inspired TV, right, and they see you have 2 episodes, they'll be like, but if they see you have 600 videos and you've been doing this for a while, obviously you're doing something right. You've been around for a while. People find my podcast now because I have 200 episodes.
That's
When I
right.
had
That's
20, or
right.
nobody looked for me because they're like, he's just another guy who got a podcast.
Oh
But
gosh,
it
Mitch,
took
this is so good.
time.
Yeah. It does take time. And I talk about the 4 C's in when I'm coaching, and it is the number one thing with video or podcasting, no matter what medium you're using, is emotional connection. You have to be able to emotionally connect to that one
Yeah.
person who's listening or watching. So that's number one, because if you
Okay.
don't, and that's why we're both quoting Brene Brown, because
Right.
we emotionally
She's
connected
great.
to that,
Yeah.
right? We
Right.
connected to
Right.
that. She's so great. So that's number one. Number two is consistency. Emotional connection without consistency isn't going to drive your business. So
Right.
you could have this most amazing video. You could have done that one TED talk. You could have done the thing that was so connected, but because there's no consistency, like you said, there's 2 videos or there's 20 videos, or I see you've been in business for 6 months. Like, it's going to take a minute. And then the more consistent you are, the more credible people see you as.
Yeah.
Right. And the more credible, the more trust you establish, the more likely they're going to buy from you. So those 4 C's, they're so simple.
What's the fourth
But
one?
Conversion. So connection,
conversion.
credibility,
And
connection, consistency, credibility, conversion.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
when
I
you
love
put
that.
all those together, you're like, oh
Yeah.
my God, that makes total sense, right?
Of
But we're
course it
usually like
does.
connection to conversion. Like, oh,
I
they
know
don't see
that.
you as credible, or
No.
you haven't been consistent. So it's all part of putting together that consistent marketing plan, the consistent theme for what you're doing out there that allows me to resonate with you over time. Because, I always say too, different platform, different person, different need. So you might put something out on Instagram and it doesn't resonate, but you put it on LinkedIn and you get a bunch of people messaging you.
Audience. Right.
So yeah, so you just have to figure out where's your tribe, and then consistent messaging over time.
Yeah. Well,
It's
I
really,
think
that's
way
yeah.
back, right? It was like you need to touch somebody 5 to 7 times to even for them to
Yeah.
even realize you're there. Now it's probably like 15
Yeah.
to 20, right? It's
It
probably a
is
lot.
absolutely. I think it's closer to 25. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
growing. So, but
It's growing.
that's true. If you, I always look at it this way, right? If you had a marketing plan, you want to do a podcast, you want to do videos, you want to blog or whatever. If you did that every week for a year, how could
Yeah.
you not get results? It's almost
Yeah.
impossible if you did it consistently, because now you're building credibility. Somebody 8 months in goes, wait a second, I've been seeing Keri everywhere. She's obviously an expert in this field. And that's what
Yeah.
happened. That's the magic part of it
That's
that people
the magic
miss.
that's not so magical, right?
No,
It's like the
just doing it,
consistency.
right?
It's funny. I'm taking Russell
Nike thing.
Brunson's like perfect webinar
Yeah, he's
course,
great.
and
ClickFunnels and stuff.
and
Right?
yeah, he's so great. And I don't know, I know we've been in like similar industries, but I've known of him, but I've never taken any of his trainings. Anyway, I was taking something, and he's like, I'll tell you what, I did a live webinar. I think it was like every day or every week. Like I did 79, I did 80,
Yeah.
and so now he generates millions and millions of dollars through his webinars. But it was like, hey, I tried a webinar and it didn't convert. So I'm not going to do it anymore.
Right.
Not going to do it anymore. And he's like, if you see Russell when he started, he was this introverted, shy, kind of geeky looking kid, and, who was teaching internet marketing. And I could only imagine how long it took him to build his own confidence, to build ClickFunnels, to do all the things. Like success does not happen overnight. But I will tell you, in the experience of interviewing millionaires and billionaires over the last 10 years, it's belief and tenacity. Like it's those two things that drive any business forward. So if you feel like you're the best kept secret, the beautiful thing is you can change that at any moment. You have to decide, you have to have the belief in yourself, because no one's going to crown you an expert, right? And then you have to have the tenacity to show up when you don't feel anyone's watching, and show up and show up and show up until you start attracting the right people. And start with why. Like if you start with why, you make it about someone else, and you really show up to serve, and you're not always the hero in your story, it really does make a huge difference.
Yeah. There were probably 50 Russell Brunsons out there, and 49 of them gave up and said, oh, this really isn't going to work.
Not
and he
doing
was,
it.
for some reason, he had the tenacity and just kept doing it. I mean, it just has a way of, but I was looking at it that way. If you extrapolate it out, whatever you're doing, if you're able to do it consistently and you really believe, well, obviously that's going to make a difference, then you're doing the right thing. You're on the right track. You just got to get better at it and practice and go and do. And, I mean, people think they're like, oh, you're a big podcaster. Not really. I don't have that many followers. It does bring me business. I'm starting to monetize it and growing
So
my
good.
brand and stuff. As I broke it, it was originally part of the law firm website. It's kind of lost. So I'm breaking it out now because I'm writing some books and things because it was getting lost. So, but that
Yeah.
took a long time too. You know, it's an evolution. And look, I'm sure Russell's always reinventing himself too, because he's always looking to
It is. What I
improve what he
realize about
does.
Russell, which I'm so not that way. Like if you do the Kobe assessment, I'm a quick start through and through. Like I have an idea, I'm going to jump on it,
You're
I'm
going to
going to
do
do
it.
it, and
Yeah.
then if it's not great for me, I'm off to the next thing. But I will tell you, what has got me to multiple seven figures has been being more like Russell Brunson, which is repetition, analytics, looking at what's working, what's not working, fine tuning things, finding the audience, asking and answering the questions.
Right.
Because if we are just a quick start, which is great for entrepreneurs, like we're risk takers, we're idea makers, but if you're not willing to go back and look at the numbers and look at the analytics and continue to tweak, you just give up before you
Yeah.
even reach any level of success. So I'm learning like how to grow the business in a way by following people like Russell and looking at, okay, how do I make this better? And in
Yeah.
the last 2 years, we've ran challenges and master classes every 8 weeks. And that has allowed us to reach more people, get more people involved in inspired living. But it didn't happen overnight. The first
No,
time I
it
did
wasn't
it, I
like
was
people
like,
knocking at your
ay,
door the
ay,
first time, right?
ay. No,
Yeah.
no, no, yeah.
I know people have some
So,
businesses, even local, where they would do, let's say it's a weight loss clinic or something, right? And they're doing like a free, session or seminar for groups. And the first time there was one person there. And the second time there were two
right.
people there. And it took weeks and months for other people. And then, but now they have people that come whenever they do it regularly because
Yeah.
it builds momentum. I
Right.
think
I love
it's
Tony Robbins' story, how when
yeah.
he had his first conference, he like booked out an auditorium and 8 people showed up. That's so good because how many
Yeah.
times do we book
That
the
means that you
auditorium
could be right.
and
Yeah,
eight
you could
people
be
show
him.
up?
Of
Yeah,
course.
we all start there. That's the great
Right.
thing to remember is that we all start with reaching one, you
Yep.
know?
The
Yeah.
most successful people I've interviewed, because obviously I've interviewed a lot of people through this podcast. First of all, they're not, like you said, afraid to just start. Like
Yeah.
they'll plan and they'll do the strategic planning, but they'll do it while they're starting. They don't wait for all the lights to turn green to
Oh
go to
my
town,
God.
right?
Story
It's
of my life. Yes.
paralysis and so forth, right?
Yeah.
But they
You're
also
literally building the plane
constantly,
as you fly.
yeah, but they're also, like you said, constantly checking in, questioning their customers,
Mhm.
asking their clients, checking their marketplace, whatever it is, because they know that whatever they think is working may be partially right, it's probably wrong, right? Because we always
Yeah.
think, well, this is what's working. And then you find out it's not. So, and the,
Yeah.
the really smart ones are always, always, always checking and looking to improve.
It's true.
And sometimes it is working, but then it changes, right?
Yeah,
Because your
that's just
marketplace,
it. It
whatever.
changes.
Yeah,
Maybe you were doing all live events like we were, and then we're like, well, that's not going to work anymore. So what do we do
clearly.
now? Yeah.
Right.
Or maybe the way of delivering content was working, but it's not working anymore. And people need a refresh. They need a reset too. If you've been offering the same thing for 10 years, it might be time to change it up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you're never going to
Yeah.
change your website for 10
Please do.
years. It's like putting the
Please do.
same ad out forever,
Yeah.
and it
All of
just
a sudden
doesn't
people
work.
stop noticing it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's talk about how people can find you and how they can interact with you, and maybe get a taste of what you do and maybe even hire you. Well, I know this is inspiredtv.net. We said that already, right? And it's
No, 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 no,
kerimurphy.com.
no. Wait,
No?
it's inspiredliving.tv.
Oh, inspiredliving.tv. What did I say?
Yes. Inspired.net or something.
Oh,
Please
I'm
don't go
sorry.
there. No,
It's
that's
been a
okay.
long day.
Inspiredliving.tv. That's all right.
Okay.
But I will say, like, we do our Get Confident on Camera challenge. It is 5 days where I am teaching
Oh,
step by step how to get over that fear. And that takes place in our private Facebook group called Ignite Your
good.
It Factor.
Net your
It
it
Factor.
factor. Okay.
Ignite Your It Factor.
Ignite your
And that
it
would be,
factor. Okay.
yes,
Well, we're
that's
going to
it.
put links in the show notes too. We're not just going to
Yeah.
leave it to people to write it
Yeah,
down.
and then if you
Yeah.
just like follow Inspired Living on Instagram, like we're all there. I have an amazing team, but we're really on a mission to help more people share their message. So if this resonates, we'd love to connect with you.
All right. Well, any last advice to entrepreneurs if you're starting a business, doing stuff, anything that you have learned over the years with your different businesses before you say goodbye and we
Yeah, I
wrap
just
this
want to
up?
go back to what we just touched on a little bit, which is that belief that I truly believe in my bones that we're not given a dream or a calling without the ability to make it happen. And so often we look outside of ourselves instead of granting ourselves permission to start. Like we wait for validation, we wait for someone to give us the job, we wait for someone to say, that's a great idea. By the way, family and friends will never tell you that's a great idea
Yeah, because
if
they're
you're going
trying
to
to
go leave a
protect
job
you
and
and
pursue
from
something.
falling on
Right.
your face, right?
That's
Yeah.
right. And so, life is so precious and you have gifts that no one else has. You have a message, even if it's similar. Maybe you have a similar product. Like we have literally worked with thousands of people in similar industries and
Yeah.
helped them grow leaps and bounds by their story and helping them understand their message and their unique differentiator. So I'm going to say just I want to keep on believing. Like, you're here for a divine purpose and it's your job to go after it. So stop waiting. If you needed someone to tell you you're ready and you're worthy, today's the day.
Keri, I can't thank you enough for joining me. And please stay in touch. And I guess have a nice weekend because I'm sure it's nicer out there
Thank
than it
you.
is in New Jersey.
It may be. You too, though.